You and your co-authors have a recent paper out putting east-west aridity in North America into context. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So if you just look at a map of North America, one of the first things you'll notice is that the west is generally pretty brown and the east is generally pretty green. And the reason is that the east gets a lot more precipitation in most years than the west. But then on top of those kind of average conditions, every year is a little bit abnormal. The west could be a little bit wet and the east could be a little dry, or the west could be a little bit dry and the east could be a little bit wet. And if you've looked at these maps anytime in the last 2 decades, then probably what you've seen is that the west is abnormally dry and the east is abnormally wet. And that's been really interesting. The dry area is getting drier, the wetter area has gotten wetter, and the question we had was, how abnormal is this? And the great thing about North America is not only does the west have a bunch of tree ring records, but the east has a lot of long tree ring records as well. We're able to use tree ring records in western North America and eastern North America to reconstruct back in time the moisture difference, the aridity gradient, we called it, between the dry west and the wet east. And what we saw is that the last 2 decades, in fact, have been very abnormal. Out of any pair of decades in the last 600 years, what we saw is that this last 2 decades, the difference between the dry west and the wet east has been stronger than in any other 20-year period in at least 600 years.
So what does that mean for us?
Well, in the west, the story is actually simpler than in the east. In the west, there have been declines in precipitation during the summertime and a little bit in the spring in the southwest. But the declines in precipitation haven't been giant, but the last 20 years have had quite a few dry years from a precipitation perspective. But the west has warmed really rapidly. As the temperatures have warmed, the air in the west actually has not gotten more humid. That means that the sponge of the atmosphere has gotten stronger. The atmosphere has gotten drier because of the warming, and that causes enhanced evaporation. And all of those things are in line, actually, with what climate models say should be happening in the West. That is, climate models say the West should be getting warm rapidly, and the evaporative demand of the atmosphere should be going up as a result. And the southwestern United States should be getting drier during spring and summer, and we're seeing that as well. In the East, though, the story is much more complicated. In the East, temperatures across a lot of the East actually haven't gone up that much, especially during summertime. The reason for why this is a bit of a mystery and super interesting. It might have to do with increases in precipitation, which drive increased evaporation, which actually cools the land as long as there's enough water to support the evaporation, and increases in cloud cover, and increases in forest coverage in the east. But we don't know for sure. But the bigger driver of the wetting trend in the east has been increased precipitation in all of the seasons, especially spring, summer, and fall. And increased precipitation in the east is not something, or the rapid increase in precipitation we've seen in the east has exceeded anything the climate models say should be happening because of global warming. So either that means climate models are wrong, or it means that what we're seeing in the east is a very, very improbable event, and it has nothing to do with climate change, but it's just regular old natural climate variability. So there's a lot of work to be done to understand the climate of the east and why it's changing. But the end result has been that the east, which is already wet, has gotten a lot wetter, and the west, which is generally already dry and drought stressed, has become more drought stressed.